friend. Amy's hair is light brown, but Bohdi supposes if you were fresh off the boat, you might classify her as blonde. Lighting his own cigarette, Bohdi says, "Yeah?" It's a lie. Amy Lewis is not, and never has been, his girlfriend. Not in this life, anyway. He messed up that chance royally months ago. And it's probably a good thing. Odin's voice rings in his mind. He destroys everything and everyone he loves. Not that Bohdi's in love. Any feelings for her are probably just bits of Loki rattling around in his brain. The door to the restaurant opens and 3 more guys join them under the awning. They start talking to Bohdi's new friend in a language he doesn't know. They laugh, and the first man turns back to Bohdi. Pointing at his own crotch with his cigarette, the man says, "Is she a blondie below, too?" Red shadows move at the edges of Bohdi's vision. Taking a long drag, Bohdi quirks his eyebrows at the little man. The guy and his friends laugh. Exhaling, Bohdi flicks the ash off the end of his cigarette. He puts the cigarette back into his mouth and grins. His hands curl into fists. Where is Bohdi? Amy scans the hotel ballroom. There are rows of chairs and long tables covered with pristine white cloths facing a stage. An empty podium sits on the stage, an enormous screen behind it. The tables are set with icy pitchers of water. In front of every chair are folders emblazoned with the logo Chicago Techno Magic Initiative. Ironically, it's some group Steve, Mr. Non-Science, had a hand in beginning. The show hasn't begun yet, and the lights in the ballroom are all on, the attendees milling about. They are scientists and press, primarily. Here and there a flash goes off. The meeting is supposed to be about revealing some great big techno-magic breakthrough that Steve said Bohdi and Amy will love. When they pressed him for details, he'd waved a hand and said, "You know I don't do science. Wait and see." She expects Steve will be officially announcing his intention to run for mayor tonight, too. He's in the lead, even though he isn't even on the ticket. Squinting, she scans the crowd. Where could Bohdi be? She looks to the side. There is free food. Bohdi loves science and free food, not necessarily in that order. She can't see him anywhere. She scowls. He's such a drama queen. It's a good thing that Agent Marion Martinez staked her claim as soon as they got back from Asgard. If she hadn't, Amy might have gotten romantically attached to another guy who obviously wasn't ready for romantic attachments. She stamps her foot, bites her lip, and lets out a breath of frustration. The trouble is, despite her annoyance, she's worried about him. He is so touchy since their return to Earth. Sometimes she sees glimpses of the Bohdi she knew in Nornheim and Asgard, the Bohdi who was interested in the prefrontal cortexes of magical creatures and made jokes in the face of death. Every time she sees a glimpse of that Bohdi, she thinks maybe they can at least be friends again. But then something happens, and he becomes moody and withdrawn. Today is a case in point. She'd offered to drive him from the office to this meeting because it was raining and his car had been totaled recently. Everything had been going well. In the car, NPR confirmed the sightings of Sleipnir, 8-legged horse and child of one of Loki's incarnations, roaming free in Grant Park with a herd of unicorns. NPR's validation of the rumors had been a vindication of sorts. Bohdi, Steve, and Amy had helped engineer the horse's freedom. Bohdi had laughed and smiled at the speakers. "Sleipnir's got some honeys." Amy smiled back. "Yeah." It had felt so good to see him smile. That's when she noticed he was wearing a pink shirt. "Hey, that shirt looks familiar," she said. Bohdi's frame had stiffened. Frowning, he snapped, "Yes, I wore it yesterday. I spent the night at some chick's house and didn't get home to change." If he had said it with a wink and a smile, she probably would have rolled her eyes and laughed. But he sounded so angry, and she didn't know what she'd done wrong. "Oh," she said, trying to cover her shock. "I was going to say it looks like the shirt you wore when we went to Nornheim." For a few moments he'd been very quiet, and then he'd said abruptly, "Let me out." In the ballroom, Amy sighs and stands on her tiptoes. And where is her grandmother? Beatrice had worked from home today to meet a plumber, but she said she'd be here. Amy turns just in time to see Steve enter through a side door behind the podium. As always, he's impeccably groomed. But whereas usually he'd be in a black suit, today he's